You know, that standard dinner party defense, right? Whenever a new piece of technology scares everyone, someone inevitably chimes in with that comforting historical anchor.
Oh, yeah. The idea that it always works out.
Right. They say, don't worry, technology destroys jobs, but it creates new, better ones. And it's treated like this unbreakable law of physics.
I mean, it is a very comforting rule.
Exactly. Like the loom replaced the weaver, but gave us clothing factories. The car replaced the horse, but we got mechanics and highway diners. What goes down must come up somewhere else.
It's the Luddite fallacy, essentially, and it implies this conservation of labor. It suggests that disruption is always a net positive for human participation, that there is always a next place for the workforce to migrate to.
But today, we are looking at an analysis that suggests gravity might be turning off.
Yeah.
We aren't just talking about a market shift or a temporary recession. We are talking about a structural break in how value is created.
It is a heavy concept, but we really need to face it head on. We're diving back into AI Futures by Jafar Humayun.
Part 14, the vanishing point.
Exactly. And as a reminder for you listening, because this is crucial to keep in mind, this is not a weather forecast. Humayun isn't telling you what stock to buy next Tuesday or predicting some sci-fi apocalypse.
Right, it's a framework.
It is a serialized analytical framework. It's about seeing the geometry of the economic machine right now.
Just to quickly orient ourselves, in the last deep dive, which was part 13, the organizational cascade, we looked at how AI is hollowing out the middle of companies.
The vertical thinning of the enterprise.
Yeah. We saw how middle management is becoming redundant because that coordination layer is just being automated, which was sobering enough.
It was.
But today, the mission is to zoom out. We're looking at substitution logic, basically asking, is the historical pattern of labor moving from one sector to another actually breaking down?
Precisely. And I want to set the tone immediately here. This isn't about doom scrolling. And it's not about painting tech companies as villains who want to erase us. We are observing what Humayun calls structural convergence. We're essentially looking at the math of the new economy.
So let's get into the mechanics of it. To understand why this time might be fundamentally different, the source material starts with this really strong baseline analogy.
The bulldozer.
The bulldozer, I love this part.
It's the perfect baseline for understanding the old way disruption worked, the era of mechanization. So, if you picture a construction site in maybe 1920,
Okay.
you might have had 30 men with shovels digging a foundation for a building. Then one bulldozer shows up, and suddenly those 30 men are out of a job.
Which, on the surface, looks like displacement. It looks like a pure loss of labor.
On the surface, yes. But the bulldozer paradox is that while the specific act of digging vanished for those men, the machine created a massive tale of creation behind it.
The cascade.
Right. Think about the ecosystem required to keep just one bulldozer running.
Well, you need a driver, first of all. It doesn't drive itself.
Start there. You need a skilled operator. But zoom out further. You need a mechanic to fix the hydraulics when they inevitably burst.
Yeah.
You need a factory full of workers to assemble the thing. You need engineers to design the engine, metallurgists for the steel blade. You need supply chain managers to ship the parts from Detroit to Dubai.
So the argument Humayun makes is that the machine didn't replace the system. It just made the system more complex. It enhanced it.
Exactly. This is the historical cascade. The bulldozer was this incredible brute force tool, but it required a human entourage to function. It created demand for labor in manufacturing, logistics, maintenance, and that demand often exceeded the labor lost in the ditch.
The complexity of the tool demanded human participation.
Yes. There was always a human needed downstream.
Okay, so that's the history lesson. That is the old reality. Now, we have to pivot to what Humayun calls synthetic convergence. Because the core argument here is that AI isn't just a better bulldozer.
No, not at all. In this framework, AI is the bulldozer and the driver and the factory and the designer.
See, that's a massive claim.
Yeah.
And I think we need to unpack that because a lot of people listening might roll their eyes and say, well, an AI can't change a tire.
Right.
So when we say AI is the driver, what does that actually look like in this model?
It's about the deletion of the human loop, specifically in the digital realm. Think about the roles we just listed for the bulldozer.
Okay.
The driver represents operation, autonomous systems, agents that can execute multi-step goals, not just answer a chat prompt, they're beginning to handle operation.
And the factory.
If the product is digital, code, media, data analysis, the factory is just compute power, cloud servers.
Which brings us to the designer.
Generative CAD and simulation models. You don't need a massive team of draftsmen iterating on a design for 6 months. You need a model that iterates on the blueprint 1,000 times a minute.
And the supervisor.
Predictive dashboards, real-time productivity logs that self-correct.
So if we go back to the bulldozer analogy, in this new reality, the machine digs the hole, but it also steers itself. It runs its own diagnostics. And the design for the next better machine is generated by a model.
That is the collapse of the cascade. The org chart doesn't get restructured. It experiences integration. The machine manages itself, meaning that tail of human jobs, the cascade of drivers and mechanics, it just doesn't form.
It's like the ripple effect just stopped.
It's systemic simplicity. The complexity is moving inside the software code, and that means the external human structure gets simpler. You just don't need the entourage anymore.
This really challenges the way we're taught to think about our careers. We are so used to the idea of migration.
Moving up the value chain.
Exactly. Like, oh, my job got automated, I'll just move up a level. I want to trace the old reality of job shifts that the source outlines, just to show how stark the difference is today.
Sure. Let's look at that migration path. It's usually described as a ladder.
Right. So first rung on the ladder, farm to factory. Mechanization kicked people out of the fields, but the assembly lines opened up.
Manual labor moved from agriculture to industry. We traded the sun for fluorescent lights.
Then we had factory to office. Automation made the assembly lines way more efficient, so labor moved into supply chain management, quality assurance, admin.
Correct. We moved from direct production to process management.
And then the digital revolution hit. Computers replaced the filing clerks and the typists, but we got IT departments, we got graphic designers, digital marketers.
We moved from process management to creative and technical services.
And here is where we hit the wall in Humayun's framework. The source calls this the substitution gap. Because logically, we should be moving from digital to something else. People always say, oh, I'll just become a prompt engineer.
Right.
Or I'll work in AI oversight.
And this is where Humayun provides a very sharp, very analytical rebuttal. He argues that roles like prompt engineering or AI oversight aren't a new industrial sector at all.
What are they?
They're transitional scaffolding.
Explain that. Why can't prompt engineer be the new web developer?
Because of the learning rate of the model. When you are prompting an AI or correcting its output, you are essentially doing RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback.
Right.
You are actively training the model to not need you the next time.
So you're basically digging your own grave.
You're building the arch, but once the keystone is set, the scaffolding comes down. These roles aren't scalable long term. In the past, technology created permanent new departments.
Like, to run a website in 1999, you absolutely needed a web department.
Yes. To run ads, you needed a marketing department. But now we are seeing value chain integration.
The consolidation.
Exactly. If a single multimodal AI model can write the code for your app, design the marketing campaign, answer the customer support tickets, and generate the quarterly investor report, why would you build 4 separate human departments?
You wouldn't. I mean, from a strict business standpoint, that's just inefficiency. You'd be paying for coordination friction.
It's economic rationality. It's not a shift of labor. It's a consolidation of tasks into a single non-human stream. There isn't a next place for the labor to migrate to because the machine is covering the entire vertical.
Which leads us directly to a concept in the source that I found really striking, the scaling of productivity without participation.
Yes.
Because it sounds like a paradox. How can a company get massive without hiring people?
It's called disconnected scaling. In the old economy, think of General Motors in the 1960s. If you wanted to double your output, you usually had to hire significantly more people.
Right, there was a direct correlation between revenue growth and headcount growth.
But now, look at the valuations of modern AI labs compared to their headcounts. We are seeing companies worth billions with fewer than 100 employees in some cases.
That's wild.
Software teams scale via cloud token budgets, not hiring rounds. You simply pay for more compute. Organizations are growing their output while actively removing structural layers.
So the economic engine is revving higher and higher. GDP might go up, stock prices might go up, but it's becoming disconnected from the labor market.
Precisely. The participation of the workforce is no longer a prerequisite for the growth of the product. It's a fundamental decoupling.
Okay, I want to push back on this a bit.
Sure.
Because usually when we talk about this, people point to what the source calls safety valves. They say, fine, the corporate desk jobs go away. I'll go do something else. I'll join the gig economy or the creator economy, or I'll do service work, caregiving, teaching, plumbing.
Yeah, the fallbacks.
Why doesn't humanity think these are structural solutions?
The analysis here is quite ruthless about the limitations of those safety valves.
Yeah.
Let's take the gig and creator economy first.
Because everyone wants to be a YouTuber or an influencer these days. It seems like the ultimate freedom.
True, but that market is already heavily saturated. It obeys a power law.
The top 1% makes all the money.
And everyone else makes pennies. But crucially, it is heavily exposed to AI generation.
You mean AI influencers?
And AI content in general. AI can create articles, videos, music, art infinitely faster and cheaper than a human. So that safety valve is being flooded by the very technology pushing people out of other jobs. The supply of content is going to infinity.
Which drives the price of human content to near zero.
Right.
Okay, that's grim for the creatives. But what about the physical world? An AI can't change a diaper. It can't fix a leaky pipe under my sink. It can't wire a house.
Correct. Care, teaching, the physical trades, these are incredibly valuable. Human calls them presence-based roles, but the problem is scale and the economics of it.
Wait again.
These roles are regionally limited. You can't export plumbing services from Ohio, India. You can't scale a nurse like you scale a software application. And historically, because these roles are hard to scale, their wages grow much slower than tech wages.
So the argument is that you can't shove the entire displaced workforce of knowledge workers into plumbing and nursing without collapsing the wages in those sectors.
Exactly. It's simple supply and demand. If you take 5 million laid-off coders and marketers and try to turn them into electricians, the wage for electricians will plummet. They are temporary sanctuaries. They aren't the foundation of a new high-growth economy that can absorb everyone.
Wow. It feels like we were watching the board shrink in real time. The source uses the phrase erasure by abstraction.
Yes.
That sounds almost philosophical.
It is, but it's also highly practical.
Oh,
We
yeah.
are moving from brute force disruption, which was the bulldozer knocking down a wall,
Yeah.
to process absorption. The AI isn't knocking down the wall, it's becoming the wall.
This brings up a huge issue regarding education. I hear this constantly. Learn to code. Learn data science. We treat upskilling like it's the magic bullet. But the source calls this the vanishing scaffolding.
This is the education dilemma, and honestly, this is the part that is most striking when you look at the next generation. Think about a student in college right now.
Okay.
They are learning to code, or they're learning copywriting or financial analysis. They are climbing a scaffold to reach a career.
All right, you start as a junior, you learn the ropes, you eventually become a senior.
But the tool they're using to learn, the AI, is absorbing the very skill they are trying to master. The AI is the ultimate junior developer. It's the ultimate junior copywriter.
So the entry-level rung of the ladder is just gone.
Exactly. How do you become a senior architect if you never spent 5 years drafting blueprints? The scaffolding required to learn the trade is being automated away. They are training for a parallel track that is just merging directly into the software.
That's a tough realization. It's like studying to be a telegraph operator while the telephone lines are being laid. But faster. Much faster.
And it's important, really crucial actually, that we reframe how we talk about this. Humayun warns against using emotional words like betrayal or theft.
Right.
Corporations aren't doing this to be malicious. This is consolidation. It's a substitution deficit.
It's just math. It's efficiency.
It is pure competitive pressure. If a company can achieve the same output with systemic simplicity, meaning one model replacing a whole department, they must do it to survive against their competitors.
Yeah.
It is the vanishing point where production and management merge into a single autonomous stream.
So where does this leave us? We've looked at the bulldozer paradox, the deletion of the blueprint, and this idea of scaling without people. It's a lot to process.
It is. If we synthesize the main finding here, it's that we are observing a total departure from the historical model.
The gravity turning off.
Yes. For 200 years, disruption created demand for new labor. It was a messy process, but it worked.
The bulldozer needed the driver.
Always. But AI replaces the product, the process, and the people behind both. There is no bulldozer factory waiting to hire the displaced workforce.
Which brings us to the provocative thought to end on today. If productivity scales without people, if the economy can get bigger and more efficient without needing us to actually work in it, the fundamental structure of the economy changes.
That is the ultimate realization of systemic simplicity. We are moving toward a frictionless economy on the production side. But that raises the biggest question of all. A question that modern economics hasn't really had to answer yet.
Which sets us up perfectly for the next deep dive.
Yeah.
AI Futures Part 15 is titled The Demand Collapse Loop.
Because here is the hook for you to think about. If workers lose their income because of this structural contraction,
Yeah.
who is left to buy the products the machines are making?
Right. The machines don't buy cars.
Yeah.
They don't buy software subscriptions.
Exactly. Henry Ford knew he had to pay his workers enough to buy the Model T. You can automate production all you want, but you cannot automate consumption. That is the economic loop we will look at next time.
Until then, this has been a deep dive into the vanishing point of labor. It's not about predicting the end of the world. It's about understanding the geometry of the shift so we aren't surprised by it.
Absolutely. Understanding it is the only way to adapt.
Thanks for listening. Stay systemic.